My mom and sister took my daughter to a mall and said they were going to let her experience being lost. They called it hide and seek and left her there. Oh, please, she'll turn up. My sister laughed. If she's lost, it's her fault, my mother said. Police dogs were brought in for a full search. 3 days later, the only thing found was her clothes in a quiet residential neighborhood on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. Martha Abrams stepped out of her car with weary footsteps, her face for the marks of fatigue from working long hours as a nurse. She had been working in the pediatric department at Portland General Hospital for 12 years. While gathering her graying hair into a ponytail, she looked up at the windows of her house. It was a slightly weathered home, but it had been a place of comfort for her and her daughter Lily. Mom, welcome home. The door swung open energetically and 10-year-old Lily came running out. Martha's face brightened with a smile as she saw her daughter with her long brown hair and pigtails on either side of her head and bright blue eyes. Lily had been staying with Mrs. Parker next door after coming home from school. For Martha, who had been working night shifts continuously, the cooperation of her neighbors was indispensable. I'm home, Lily. How was school today? Martha asked, while embracing her daughter. Lily answered while sniffing the scent of her mother's uniform. It was really good. We did an experiment in science class, and I got a perfect score on my math test. That's wonderful. My daughter is a genius, Martha said, stroking Lily's head. When they entered the house, Lily's homework was already spread out on the living room table. Martha headed to the kitchen and took out leftovers from the refrigerator. Finding time to cook was always a challenge amid her irregular nursing schedule. Lily, are you hungry? I'll heat up some chicken soup. Yes. But first, look at this. Lily proudly showed a picture she had brought home from school. It was a drawing of her family, Martha and Lily, and James, Lily's father, who had divorced Martha 5 years ago. Martha felt a slight tightening in her chest. That's a lovely picture, Lily. Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube or from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit Stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious. Dad said he wants to see it too. I'm going to take it with me when I see him next weekend. Martha nodded. So I learned the divorce from James hadn't been amicable, but she tried to maintain as good a relationship as possible for Lily's sake. James spent time with Lily only 2 weekends a month, no more no less. While preparing dinner, the phone rang. Martha picked up the receiver with a sigh. Hello, Abrams speaking. Martha, how are you? Can you talk now? The voice on the other end of the line was Martha's mother, Deborah. She still hadn't stopped meddling in her daughter's life. Yes, I'm just preparing dinner, still feeding her fast food. That child should be eating more nutritious meals. Deborah's voice was tinged with criticism. Martha closed her eyes and took a deep breath. It's chicken soup, homemade, I see. By the way, Vanessa and I have made plans for the weekend. We thought we'd take Lily shopping. Martha's sister Vanessa had a strong bond with their mother. The two of them were constantly critical of Martha, especially continuing to criticize or for spoiling Lily and how she raised her shopping. That's unusual for you two to want to take Lily out. It's a grandmother's right to spend time with her grandchild, isn't it? Besides, that child needs to develop more social skills. She lacks independence because you spoil her too much. Martha tried to argue, but the words caught in her throat. It was always difficult to assert her opinions against her mother and sister since childhood. She had learned to simply stay quiet and obey in front of them. Lily has plenty of social skills. She has lots of friends at school, but she needs to learn about the harshness of the real world, Vanessa. And I will take her to Woodfield Mall on Saturday afternoon. You should take some time off. You're always working. And you don't look well. Martha felt weary, but considered the idea. She was indeed tired from consecutive night shifts. Maybe it wouldn't be bad for Lily to go shopping, and truthfully, she wanted some time to herself. All right, I'll ask Lily. As after hanging up, Martha approached Lily with the idea contrary to our expectations. Lily's eyes lit up. Shopping with Grandma and Aunt Vanessa. I want to go. Maybe I can pick out Christmas presents too. Martha smiled. Yes, probably on Saturday morning. Deborah and Vanessa arrived at Martha's house. As usual, Deborah appeared with perfect makeup and expensive clothes, and Vanessa was similarly well dressed. The two of them frowned slightly at seeing Lily's casual attire. "Oh, are you going in those clothes? Don't you have anything cuter?" Vanessa asked, making Lily shrink a bit. "Her clothes are cute enough," Martha said. But the two ignored her anyway. "Let's go, Martha. We'll be back in the evening. Get some rest," Deborah said in a commanding tone. Martha kissed Lily goodbye. "Have fun, Lily Cole. If anything happens, I'll be fine, Mom. You get some rest," Lily waved cheerfully as she watched Deborah's luxury car drive away. Martha felt a strange uneasiness spreading in her chest, but she suppressed that feeling. Her mother and sister were Lily's family. Surely everything would be fine. Martha returned to the house and decided to enjoy her rare free time. She read a book, caught up on housework, and in the afternoon she took a long bath. However, as time passed, her anxiety increased again. By evening, there was still no contact from the three of them. Martha picked up her cell phone and called her mother. There was no response. She then tried calling Vanessa, but again there was no answer. She looked at the clock. It was already past 7 when she finally got through on one of her many attempts to call. Her mother answered. "Hello, Martha calling. So many times. Were you always this anxious?" Deborah's voice had a touch of irritation. "Mom, it's already 7:30. You're well past the time you were supposed to be back. Where's Lily?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. "Oh, Lily." Martha's heart nearly stopped. Her mother's tone was clearly strange. "What about Lily? Where is she? Come down, Martha. Lily just got lost." That's all. Martha couldn't believe her ears. "Just got lost? What do you mean? We're at Woodfield Mall. Vanessa and I are at the food court. We've just explained the situation to security." Martha grabbed her car keys with trembling hands. "I'll be right there." The 20-minute drive to the mall felt like an eternity to Martha. Her mind was in chaos, imagining the worst scenarios. She ran red lights and exceeded the speed limit, sliding into the mall parking lot. Martha rushed into the building, remembering the path to the food court. She quickly found her mother and sister. The two were talking with a security guard while drinking coffee. Their composed demeanor made Martha's anger rise. "What happened?" she shouted as she approached them. Deborah elegantly put down her coffee cup and looked up at Martha. "Martha, stop raising your voice in public. Where is Lily?" Martha tried to control her voice, but the trembling wouldn't stop. Vanessa shrugged. "We don't know. We were just trying to give her an educational experience." "Educational experience," Deborah calmly explained. "Lily needs to learn about the harshness of society. Children who are raised overprotected can't survive in the real world." "What was this educational experience?" Martha's voice was ice cold. Vanessa spoke up. "Hide and seek. We told live. Lee, wait here. We'll come find you soon," and watched from a distance. "But it seems she went somewhere." Martha gasped. "You left a 10-year-old child alone in a large shopping mall. It's to raise her to be strong. You always spoil her too much," Deborah said calmly. The security guard interrupted. "Ms. Abrams, I need detailed information about your daughter. Do have a photo?" Martha took out her cell phone with trembling hands and showed a recent photo of Lily. She has long brown hair and blue eyes today. She was wearing a navy blue t-shirt and denim shorts. "When did she go missing?" the guard asked the two. "When?" Vanessa answered. "Probably around 4, but don't worry. I'm sure she'll be found soon." She smiled. "All children learn independence this way." Martha tried to maintain her composure despite her intense anger. "She's been missing for more than 3 hours. Why didn't you contact the police immediately?" "The police? You're overreacting." Deborah looked at Martha with contemptuous eyes. "If she got lost, that's her own responsibility. She'll learn from such experiences." Martha turned back to the security guard. "Please contact the police. My daughter may have been kidnapped." Deborah and Vanessa exchanged glances. "As well." That's the guard nodded and began making contact on his radio. Martha collapsed into a chair, feeling all strength drain from her body. "Why?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Why would you do this?" "Because there's a problem with your parenting," Deborah said coldly. "That child is too spoiled." It was time for her to know the harshness of reality. Vanessa nodded in agreement. "Please don't worry, she'll be found. This is part of growing up." Martha stared at them in disbelief. She couldn't understand how her mother and sister could be so cruel. When the police arrived, the search began in earnest. As they checked the mall security camera footage, a horrifying truth was revealed. There was clear Of Deborah and Vanessa leaving Lily behind, they said something to her and walked away laughing. Lily watched them go with a confused expression, standing still for a while. The police officer showed Martha the footage and explained your daughter stood there for a while, but after about 15 minutes she started moving. She left the food court and headed toward the toy department. Were checking the footage from there now. Martha couldn't stop her tears as she watched the footage. Lily's anxious face, her small body getting lost in the crowd. That's ridiculous. Vanessa raised her voice. We were thinking of her. Martha wanted to cover her ears. She didn't want to hear any more excuses from them. In her mind, there was only Lily's smiling face. That night, the police expanded their search to the entire mall and surrounding areas by the next day. Even police dogs were brought in, and a large-scale search operation was underway. Deborah and Vanessa continued to say it's Lily's own responsibility that she got lost, and Martha felt increasingly desperate. And on the third day of the search, only Lily's clothes were found in a small forest near the mall. A small navy blue t-shirt and soil-stained denim shorts, the clothes Lily had last worn, were placed on the table at the police station. Martha stared at them, her whole body trembling. In her mind, Lily's smile and her last words, "Mom, get some rest," kept coming back to her. Ms. Abrams, Detective Carol J. Lincolns gently called out, "We're proceeding with this as a kidnapping case. We found footage from security cameras near the mall showing your daughter with a suspicious man." Martha looked up. A mixed feeling of hope and fear came over her. "Is Lily alive? From what we can judge from the footage, it doesn't appear that your daughter was forcibly taken away. However, this man is clearly a stranger, and there are several concerning points." Detective Jenkins took out a tablet and played the footage. It showed Lily with a tired expression, with clearly red eyes from crying. She was sitting on a bench near the mall exit. A middle-aged man approached and said something to Lily seemed wary at first, but her expression gradually softened at the man's words. And at the end of the footage, the two were seen leaving them all together. "We've identified this man's face." Detective Jenkins showed another photo. His name is Edward Clark, 43 years old, single. He lives alone in an apartment on the outskirts of Portland and works at an electronics store. He has no criminal record. But why did Lily go with him? Martha was confused. "It's clear that your daughter was frightened. The man probably said he would help her. As for only finding the clothes," the detective continued, carefully choosing her words, "we don't need to consider the worst scenario yet. While the clothes may have been removed, they might have simply been changed to hide her identity." At that moment, the police station door opened and Deborah and Vanessa entered. Their faces showed signs of fatigue, but still not a trace of guilt. "Martha," Deborah approached. "Any new?" And from Martha stood up, trembling way. "Anger, it's your fault. It's all your fault that Lily is. We did what we thought was best," Deborah replied calmly. "Best?" Martha raised her voice. "What's good about abandoning a 10-year-old child in a mall full of strangers?" It was time for her to learn about the harshness of society. Vanessa joined in. "You always spoil her too much." Martha pointed at the security camera footage with trembling fingers. "Look, Lily went with a stranger. Is this the harshness of society you're talking about?" Deborah and Vanessa watched the footage and seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation for the first time. However, they still wouldn't admit their fault. It was Lily's own judgment to go with him. Deborah said, "We're not responsible." Detective Jenkins interrupted with a stern expression. "Your actions could constitute child abuse. You deliberately placed the child in a dangerous situation." Deborah and Vanessa looked surprised for the first time. He appeared in their expressions. Meanwhile, Lily was in Edward Clark's apartment. She had been changed into new clothes and was staying in a small bedroom. The room was locked, but she wasn't being treated badly. Edward gave her meals and maintained a gentle tone when speaking to her. "Please, I want to go home." Lee pleaded to Edward with tears in her eyes. He had just entered the room and placed a sandwich for dinner. "No, your family abandoned you. I'll protect you," Edward said. But there was uncertainty in his eyes. Lily was a smart child. Though she was scared, she observed the situation without panicking. Edward didn't seem to be trying to hurt her. Rather, he was treating her with a somewhat protective attitude. "My grandmother and aunt left me But my mom is different, Willie said quietly. She didn't know mom is surely looking for me. Edward stared at her silently. It's getting cold. After he left the room, Lily picked up a photo of herself placed on the bed. It was a printout of surveillance camera footage taken at the mall. A picture of her crying alone. Next to the photo was a newspaper clipping, an article with the headline calls for stricter punishment for child abuse. Lily looked around the room. The window was small and high up, but it wasn't locked. She began to think that this man wasn't trying to hurt her, but perhaps helping her in his own way. But that was wrong. Mom must be worried. The police must be searching for her. She gathered her courage and decided to talk to Edward again to understand him and to get him to return her home. Meanwhile, at the police station, new information had come in from Edward's workplace. He had taken leave 2 weeks ago, and according to his colleagues, he often talked about having received strict education as a child. Specifically, he seems to have been abused by his mother and aunt under the pretext of learning the harshness of society. Detective Jenkins explained to Martha, there's a possibility that Clark tried to rescue your daughter due to his past trauma. According to his colleagues, he was very sensitive about child abuse. They covered her face with trembling hands. Then Lily, there's a high likelihood she's alive, the detective asserted. The investigation team has identified Clark's apartment. They're heading there now. Martha prayed with all her heart and soul that Lily would be safe. On the morning of the 5th day of the search, a girl was standing at the front entrance of Woodfield Mall. She was wearing a new light blue dress, and her hair was neatly tied. The girl's expression was a bit tense, but she didn't seem terrified. The first security guard of the morning noticed her just 30 minutes before the mall opened. Good morning, young lady. What are you doing here alone? Security guard Thomas asked kindly. The girl looked straight up at him. I am Lily Abrams. Please call my mom. Thomas's eyes widened. He immediately took out his radio and made a call. Emergency contact. Lily Abrams has been found. Front entrance within minutes. Police officers and other security guards rushed over. Lily calmly gave her name and her mother's contact information. The police immediately contacted Martha. Martha had barely slept for 3 days. She had been going back and forth between the police station and home, terrified of when the tragic news might come in. When the phone rang, she picked up the receiver with trembling hands. Abrams speaking. Her voice was hoarse with fatigue. Miss Abrams, this is Detective Jenkins. I have good news. Lily has been found. She's safe. Martha collapsed to her knees. Lily, she's alive. Really? Where? She was found at the front entrance of Woodfield Mall. A police officer is with her now. Can you come here right away? Martha drove like mad. When she arrived at the mall, police cars and ambulances had gathered. She jumped out of the car and ran toward the center of the circle of people. Lily, the small girl, turned around and tears welled up in her blue eye. Is mom? They embraced and cried. Martha touched Lily's hair, face, and arms, as if to make sure her body was unharmed. Are you okay? You're not hurt? Lily nodded. I'm okay, Mom. Edward was kind to me. Martha gasped. Edward? He took you? Detective Jenkins approached that to Lily. After you see a doctor, could you tell us what happened at the hospital examination? No signs of physical abuse were found on Lily. Rather, it was confirmed that she had been given proper meals and kept in a clean environment. The doctors were surprised. It was rare for a victim in a kidnapping case to return and such good condition. In a small interview room at the hospital, female detective Ellen Morris gently listened to Lily's story. Martha was also present. Lily, can you tell me what happened at the mall? Ellen asked gently. Lily took a deep breath and began to speak. I went shopping with Grandma and Aunt Vanessa, but in the middle they said let's play hide and seek. They said wait here, you have to find us. She continued with some hesitation. But no matter how long I waited, I couldn't find them. I got scared when I was crying. Edward came up and asked, are you okay? So you went with him? Ellen gently prompted. Yes, I was scared first, but Edward said he would contact the police. But when we got to his apartment, he said your grandmother and aunt are terrible people. You can't go back to them anymore. Martha embraced her daughter's shoulders with trembling hands. Edward told me that his grandmother and aunt did terrible things to him. He said they often bullied him in the name of Education when he was little. That's why he wanted to protect me. Did he do anything bad to you? Ellen asked carefully. Lily shook her head. No, he bought me new clothes and made delicious food. But he wouldn't let me go outside. He said he was protecting me from people who would hurt me. Then why did you return to the mall this morning? Last night I talked a lot with Edward. I told him my mom didn't abandon me. She didn't know. Then Edward thought for a long time and finally said, tomorrow I'll return you to your mom. Lily smiled slightly. He said he couldn't return me directly, so we made a plan. Early in the morning, he took me to the front of the mall.